Well, it's another warm welcome back, all my loyal YouTube subscribers, and thanks again for returning to Classic Dirt Bike TV. Now, as we've not featured a trials bike on my channel for quite some time now, I thought we should put that right immediately and feature not only just another example, but a trials machine that's possibly the most famous of them all. So without any further delay, let's jump straight into the video and check out Sammy Miller's world famous 500cc Ariel HT-5. Now, this very successful trials machine is one of Sammy Miller's bikes that he used from 1957 to 1964, and during that period Sammy had won just about every big trials event around the UK, in Europe and even internationally while riding this superb looking Ariel HT-5 500. Now, this featured bike is a machine that Sammy developed while he was riding as a works rider with the Ariel trials team. Now, it's said that there were 3 of these machines built, although this of course is the most famous with the registration number GOV132. Now, it's also said that Sammy had an identical 500 HT-5 to this bike, which he used as a backup machine with the registration number 786 GON, which, as far as we are aware, it still survives somewhere in Europe. But in terms of this bike's successes in trials events, how about this for a quick resume? 11 times British champion, 2 times European champion, and a winner of over 1,400 other trials events. Plus, Sammy had at least 9 gold medals at the International 6 Days trial, and that's before we even begin to list his successes while riding other bikes like HIS's and NSU's in road racing. Now, I'm certainly no expert on these kind of trials machines, but from a bit of research, these bikes had a Reynolds steel frame chassis with the engine oil being housed in the frame. Now, the motor was a single cylinder 500 with a bore of 81mm and a stroke of 95mm. Now, these bikes also had a 4-speed gearbox that was made by Burman. Now, when Sammy first took possession of this bike, he wanted to make it as light as possible, so every single part that was made of steel that could be then changed to a lighter alloy was remanufactured. Now, many of the bike's other parts, including the side panels, the mudguards and fuel tank, were all made from fiberglass. Now, many of the bike's other steel parts that couldn't be changed for lighter alloy were simply drilled to remove excess metal, as of course every precious gram that could be removed from this bike was more weight lost to its overall volume. Now, this quite vast information board lists just some of the many successes that Sammy and his HT-5 have had over the years, and if you take a bit of time to digest the results, it's pretty impressive to say the least. Now, as I just mentioned, the bike's fuel tank, including the rear panel and this mudguard, were all made in fiberglass by BML, or more specifically Chris Butler of Butler Molded Laminates. Now, it's also said that the bike's front and rear brake drums were taken straight from the Ariel Leader road bike, because these were lighter than the originals that were fitted, and the bike's front forks again are said to be taken from a Norton motorcycle. Now, Sammy's bike also had this custom made exhaust system, which is very neat and compact. Now, it's also said that there are many copies of this bike in existence, and to be fair, these are very good bikes if you're into your vintage trials. But of course Sammy's Gov 132 bike is still the original real deal. But my apologies for not managing to get more footage of the left side of the bike, although to be fair, I was amazed I even got these shots, as Sammy has a very strict rule of not letting people get too close to touching his precious exhibits. Although mind you, as motorcycle trials bikes go, this HT-5 Ariel of Sammy's has to be the daddy of them all, and possibly the most successful and rarest trials bike on the planet. And coupled with this perfectly sculpted Ariel 4-stroke engine, it's certainly a world beater. Now this Gov 132 is certainly a much sought after registration plate among trials bike owners, but there's certainly no way that Sammy would ever surrender this particular prefix. But of course this particular exhibit of Sammy's iconic trials bike is just one of the hundreds of motorcycles that you can see at the Sammy Miller Motorcycle Museum. Now of course also if you visit the museum you can see much of these precious silverware that Sammy has achieved not only on his Ariel HT-5 trials bike but some of his other trophies for road racing, and within these display cabinets are just a few of the many accolades that Sammy has had bestowed on him over his many years of being around motorcycles. Although essentially almost all of these Ariel HT-5s were originally based around the Red Hunter Ariel road bike, and after Sammy had taken what was a stock motorcycle and made all his improvements and reduced the all-up weight of the bike, it seemed that everybody and their dog seemed to want one of these Sammy Miller HT-5 trials bikes. Although things could have turned out very different for the Ariel Motorcycle Factory if Sammy hadn't done all his development work on this machine, and it's really thanks to Sammy's ingenuity and his skill as a trials rider that gave this particular HT-5 legendary status. And soon after Sammy left Ariel, he of course joined up with Bultaco to assist him in developing their Highboy Sherpa T trials bike, which were hugely successful at the time. But this Gov 132 machine is one very special piece of kit, and in its lifetime has chalked up an almost encyclopedic list of event wins with the great man in control. So if you're ever asked what's the most famous and successful trials bike and rider to date, then without question this HT-5 Ariel and Sammy Miller would certainly be your answer. Okay, I hope you enjoyed that very quick look around Sammy Miller's HT-5 Ariel, and if these are the kind of machines that you like to look at here on YouTube, then please consider subscribing to my channel to see more of the same. So coming up next on my video channel, we're going to take a look at this 1978 Mark 12 370 Bultaco Persang. So thanks once more for taking the time to watch my video content, and I do hope you'll return soon to see more off-road bikes from back in the day, right here on Classic Dirt Bike TV.